topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Tampa. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of health, legal, financial, and home improvement. Hey, there is no better way than to start the day off on a Monday morning with one of my favorite shows to do, Zervis and Culta. They are personal injury attorneys. I'm going to tell you the reason why I'm so excited about having them on. I'm here in South Florida. I'm in Southeast Florida. They're in Southwest Florida. And I got to tell you, there are so many, I don't want to sound political, there are so many new drivers in our state that don't know anything about our laws that are out there driving. I have never seen so many auto accidents in my life. What better than to start off a show with a personal injury attorney who understands auto accident injuries? Let me welcome you to Zervis and Culta, Lauren Culta and Angela Zervis. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Did I hit that about right?
I would say so. I think that it really is so important in hiring an attorney for personal injury, Steve. You know, you mentioned new drivers. There's not only new drivers, there's people who, quite frankly, are either so fragile or so ill or so old that they shouldn't be driving and still drive.
Agree.
It's, enormous liability on the road. And it's so important when choosing a personal injury attorney that you get one with the right experience. And I'm not even saying someone that's been doing it for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, because some of those attorneys don't have the right experience or the know-how in terms of really handling and investigating and pursuing a personal injury claim. It's so easy to come in, get the insurance information, see what the insurance is, and see if you can settle the claim. That, that's all he could do. It's a matter of really exposing all potential people who are responsible for the injuries that are sustained by our clients. It's about exhausting all avenues of recovery in terms of insurance proceeds or personal proceeds from the person. And I think that Angela can best speak about a case that's a prime example that we just handled and were able to resolve for our clients where experience really did matter. Ange?
Yeah, good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Angela.
Lauren hit the nail on the head, and I'm just going to add to that and say that in addition to having experience, your attorney needs to have the drive to fight, the willingness to pass up on a potential settlement and settle the case and move on. Lauren and I don't do that. If we feel a case is really worth more, and we feel that there's a way that we might be able to get more money for the client because they are so injured, Lauren and I are usually in for the fight on that. And a prime example is a case that I brought in, and Lauren and I both worked on it. It took about a year and a half to resolve, but let me tell you why it was worth that wait. We had two siblings involved in an accident. They were, one was in their late 20s, one was in their early 30s, and they were just on their way to a local store. They were making a left-hand turn at a pretty big intersection. They had the green arrow to do that, and a car came from their left, and according to witnesses, was driving at a high rate of speed. I believe somewhere between 30 and 35 miles an hour over the speed limit, passing cars and no passing zones, got to the red light, or they had the red light. Our clients were making the left turn and basically just got T-boned and crushed, absolutely crushed. The nature of the injuries were fractured spine, fractured pelvis in 5 areas,
Gosh.
a completely displaced humerus, which is the upper bone in your arm, and a femur fracture, which is the strongest bone in your body, in your leg. And they were broken and required surgery. All those injuries required surgery. I don't want to specify whose injuries were whose, but these siblings ended up in the hospital for over a week, had more than one surgery, and were required to undergo extensive physical therapy afterwards. And even as of the time that the case resolved a year and a half later, they were still actively treating and still had foreseeable surgeries to come in the future. The interesting part about it is that the driver, at-fault driver, maintained that they had a yellow light and they proceeded through the yellow light, and our clients must have ran the red light. And despite, of course, having a police report with, I believe, 6 witnesses who said that simply wasn't the case, this person's insurance company pretty much took the driver's side on that. Upon some investigation in our office, we found out that the driver, at-fault driver, lived at home with her parents and was driving the parents' car, and the parents had a $100,000 policy, and that meant $100,000 maximum for each injured person. When we started digging a little bit, Lauren and I found that this driver had an extensive driving history in multiple surrounding counties for speeding, driving on a suspended license, so on and so forth. And what we decided to do was bring the father in for his role in turning the keys over to his child, who he knew or should have known had a horrendous driving record. And the theory of law that we filed that under is something called negligent entrustment. And what the goal was to basically get more than the $100,000 from the insurance company and have the parents contribute to the losses that our clients suffered by virtue of the fact that they also, in our opinion, were culpable and responsible. And after months of litigating and taking depositions, we were able to resolve the case for more than 4 times. Well, no, I'm sorry, more than 8 times. 8 times. The amount.
Did you have to go to court, Angela, or did they settle?
We did not. The case ended up settling. Don't need to give you the amount exactly, but more than 8 times.
Wow.
You can do the math on that. And the clients were thrilled. I can tell you that both of them had consulted with an attorney prior to coming to our firm that basically said, well, we'll get you the 100, which would have done them no good because they had
exactly
an extensive amount of medical bills. So they would have gotten nothing. So that just, the point is, and it's not really to toot our horn, but the point is that we were willing to fight. We didn't know that it was going to resolve that way, but we were willing to take the chance, and we were tenacious enough and we were aggressive enough, And we took the time to research, and we had an outstanding result for our clients.
Angela, with such severe injuries, how do you figure in, things that could come up a year later or 2 years later from the accident?
Well, the law in Florida doesn't allow you to collect for what might happen, right?
Oh,
You can't say that it's possible that they're going to need surgery and then ask a jury for that. You can't even say, believe it or not, the doctors can't even say that it's probable. The doctors have to say that they believe within a reasonable degree of medical, quote, certainty, which is a pretty high standard, right? I mean, the doctors have to say, look, it's reasonably certain to be that they're going to need additional treatment. Those are the magic words, reasonably certain. And so under those circumstances, you could ask a jury for the costs of future medical care if it's reasonably certain to occur, not probable, not possible. So it's sad because, doctors don't hold a crystal ball to be able to say most of the time what's certain to happen. So we are limited, our clients are limited in what they could collect for the future. And, sometimes they have long lasting lifetime injuries. They have
yes.
a lifetime of pain. And there are doctors that, are able to, based on their experience and based on their treatment of somebody, they're able to say that, so-and-so is going to have pain within a reasonable degree of medical certainty for the rest of their life. And they're going to need doctor visits and x-rays and physical therapy and pain medication and so on and so forth. But you bring up a valid point. We have clients who ask us that all the time. What's going to happen to me in 5 years?
Right.
We don't, but we can't get you compensated for what might happen.
We just got a text from a listener who wants to know. He said, I have been involved in 2 accidents, and neither time was the party responsible had insurance. What's going on in the state of Florida?
Well, the type of insurance that he may be looking for in terms of an injury claim, Steve, is bodily injury liability coverage. And unfortunately, you don't need that to get on the road. So a lot of people don't have it, and with inflation being what it has been the last 4 years, a lot of people don't have any insurance, let alone, bodily injury. They don't have the mandatory minimum of property damage and PIP. So you can't get your car fixed if the other party's responsible and you don't have comprehensive and collision to cover yourself. We've spoken about this so many times on the show, uninsured motorist coverage. We urge everyone we speak to, get as much uninsured motorist coverage as you can afford. Because in a case like the listener that just texted in, if the other party has no bodily injury coverage and you're hurt and you want to make a claim for your injuries and you have a right to do that, and there's no coverage to go after and the person has no assets to chase, you're going nowhere without uninsured motorist coverage. It's
I
so
got to share something with you that a lot of people might not realize, but I've been wondering for the last 6, 7, 8 months, there's so many cars with a headlight out, some of them both headlights. And I've been wondering, how come there's so many cars? Maybe I didn't notice it before, but my headlight went out and I went into the garage to have it replaced and they wanted $125. What happened to the days of a little fuse, $10? So I think, you're right. There's, with the economy the way it is, there's a lot of people driving around with one headlight and they're not replacing it because it's so expensive.
One of the things I'm continuously just at a loss for is the state of Florida is like the up and coming California and New York. We have so many people here. Lauren and I, in the last, and this is obviously, I mean, we've been a big state, a populous state, before COVID, but after COVID, Lauren and I, what used to take 30 minutes to drive to Tampa now takes over an hour. And there's so many people moving here now. And you would think that with the population as it is, that our legislature and our governor would mandate that every driver carry liability for injuries. And it's not required in this state. I mean, it's required in like 44 other states in the United States and not Florida. And so people are calling their agents or going online and, logging in to Geico or Progressive and it says, this is not mandatory liability. And so people are like, oh, I'm not going to buy it. Well, if I don't need it, I don't want to buy it. Well, and they're not. And so we just see it so often, and we don't understand why the Florida legislature doesn't mandate to protect the people here some liability coverage. And their excuses, and we found out why the governor won't sign this into law, is because he doesn't want the rates to go up. Meanwhile, the rates are astronomical anyway.
Yes.
I mean, they are astronomical in Florida. And so it's just, it really is mind blowing. So
I want to bring to everybody's attention. I don't think, if you've never had to hire a personal injury attorney, I don't think they know how you're compensated. I think if they knew, a lot more people, if they're injured in an auto accident, that they would hire a firm like yours. Tell people how you're compensated.
We don't get paid unless the client gets paid. It's a contingency fee. Our fee is contingent or relies upon being able to recover money for our client. So there's no money out of pocket. When you come into our office, there's no retainer, there's no hourly billing. It's strictly a 33 1/3 percentage for our fee from any settlement we're able to obtain. And if we have to file a lawsuit, whether we resolve it by settlement or verdict, once we file the lawsuit and 20 days has passed for the defendant to answer, then the fee goes to 40%, and that's regulated by the Florida Bar.
But by then, you put out so much money yourself by the time you get to that point with no money coming in.
And time. I
mean, we could have a case go 2-3 years from the time it comes into the office to the time it sees a verdict without ever seeing a dime for our time. So that's why it's important when people are choosing a law firm to make sure that the law firm can go the distance like Angela and I can. It takes.
I love about your firm, Lauren, is most of these I don't want to call them big firms because you've got a good sized firm, but these firms that you see with all these expensive ads on there that people don't realize you're paying for that. Okay. But, most of them, they have an intake person. They don't even talk to the attorney. And that's not how your firm works.
Absolutely not, Steve. For as many years as Lauren and I have been practicing law, which is combined, quite honestly, over 60 years. I know we don't look it, but it is over 60. I'm letting you know.
Child prodigies.
We're very hands-on. We work a lot, and we believe that when a client calls for us because they found us either online and read reviews, or they got referred by another client, we recognize that those people want to meet with us. They're not calling our office to meet with a secretary or a runner or a case manager. They want to meet with us. And so we work a lot because we have to be available for our clients.
That is so important. And you both have so much experience. You've seen just about everything you could possibly see in a case. You have a pretty good idea if someone has a case.
We do. We do. There's no way to actually put a number on it when they first come in, because a lot of times we'll get asked, well, what do you think our case is worth? And there
Right.
is absolutely no way to put a number on that. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't predict how extensive your injuries are going to be. You know, you may come in with an injuries to your neck and you wind up getting shots, and then you wind up doing radio frequency ablation or getting the nerves cauterized. That's not working. You ultimately have surgery, and then the surgery goes bad, say, right? You don't have a great result. You still have a lot of pain after your surgery. We didn't know when you came in the outcome you were going to have or how you were going to be, 6 months, a year down the road after you've had your medical care. So there's no way to predict an actual value to it. But yes, we can ascertain from the issues of liability in looking at the extent of your injuries when you come in. If you just have a scratch versus if you have a broken bone, or you're having some symptoms that may show us that there's nerve impingement, like numbness and tingling in your hands, or your feet or your legs, and whether or not the accident caused the injuries based on what you tell us about your prior medical history. We have an idea of where it can go or the potential the case may have, sure.
People don't realize there's cameras everywhere nowadays. I mean, if you think you're going to get away with something, walk people through a person who's been in an auto accident. What's the first thing they should do?
Well, I think, Steve, the first thing, you mean first thing when they're at the scene?
Yes.
Okay. Well, when you're at the scene, obviously you've got to make sure that you're okay. You don't feel right, then you need to call for medical assistance, and that needs to be the focus. If you realize that you don't need an ambulance in that moment, Lauren and I always tell clients to call somebody to come to the scene to take photographs for you of the vehicles. If hopefully the vehicles are still in the same position, they haven't been moved. We like to take pictures of the damage to both vehicles, and of course gather witnesses' names. Sometimes people stay around to give their name and then they leave. Lauren and I think that it's very important to maintain witnesses, so these people can be contacted if they're needed down the road. So the first thing obviously is the medical treatment, and then Lauren and I, when we tell our clients, if potential clients, that if they realize that they are hurting, that they should seek medical treatment within the first 14 days, because you lose your PIP coverage if you don't do that. And once you seek medical treatment and you realize, you're just not feeling right still, that's when they should call an attorney. And it's a free consultation. So we get to explain what their rights are, what kinds of compensation they're entitled to, if any, and how the law works.
Your show always goes by so fast. Tell people that are listening on radio right now or podcasts how they can contact your office.
Always feel free to give us a call, 727-937-3171. You could visit our website at www.servosinjurylaw.com. You can come to our main office at 1266 South Pinellas Avenue, Tarpon Springs. Stop by and say hi. If you have a question, feel free to ask. Angela and I have a pretty open door policy. Even if you just have a simple question that you want to get on the phone and ask an attorney about, we'll get on if we're available. We don't have you run through a secretary. There's no gatekeeping in our office.
Steve,
Ladies,
one more
thank you
thing.
much.
Can I throw one more thing in? We are able to represent anybody in the entire state of Florida. So
Yes.
if you have listeners down in South Florida or North Florida or on the East Coast, we do Zoom. And these days, we can handle cases anywhere because the courts are allowing for Zoom hearings all the way up until the trial. So we do a lot of Zoom. We meet a lot of new people. And, hopefully if anybody out there needs some advice, we are here for you.
Ladies, have a blessed Thanksgiving. You'll be back again with us next month. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's Angela Zervos and Lauren Calta. Hey, that's it for us today. We'll be back with you again next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.